I replaced my master cylinder on a 2004 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4.7 liter. I did this last night, and I'm just going to tell you the problem I ran into, how I fixed it real quick, because there's nothing worse than sitting under a hood listening to someone babble on. So I'll tell you that real quick, and then I'll go into the journey for anybody that wants to stick around. Okay, so replacing this is easy. It's a couple bolts, a couple lines, not a problem. You do have to bench bleed it before you put it on. There's plenty of videos to show you how to do that. Also how to replace these things, and then also how to bleed them. So I did all that, and when I started my vehicle up, the brake icon on my dash was illuminated. So the word brake, B-R-A-K-E, was illuminated in red, and it would not go away. I drove this thing around, and it still wouldn't go away. So this morning I started doing my research and stuff like that. I'll tell you how fruitful that was in a second. But I couldn't find anything. Couldn't find anything on, well, I found a ton of stuff, but it was all just pointless. So I was like, okay, well, that didn't happen when I had my old master cylinder on there. And what I found is that the word brake on your dash in red only comes on when you have your e-brake on, or you didn't fully put it all the way down, or this thing is low on fluid, which mine wasn't. So I just filled the old master cylinder up with fluid, and the little plug that comes off of this thing, I just plugged it into the old master cylinder, turned it on, and the light went away. So that's telling me that there's something wrong with the switch on the new one, and the old one works. Okay, so I swapped them out, and yeah, my problem went away. So if you're having that problem, there's one solution you might want to try, because even though something's brand new doesn't necessarily mean it works. Okay, so first thing, some of the stuff that I went through, like I watched a ton of videos. Actually, I'll talk about that in a second when I'm talking about how I used my meter on this. Jeep forums. I don't even know why I look on there for information, because my question, anytime that I've had a question on my Jeep, someone else has asked that question, and then a horde of assholes comes in there and doesn't answer the question at all, and does like the exact opposite. They just make it more confusing, and not like they're being helpful. Like the one that I was reading, this dude, word for word, same problem I was having. Now, the only difference is he said that he upgraded to a Durango master cylinder. So everybody on the forum just starts ripping into him about, like, that's not an upgrade, you just screwed up, this and that. Like, nobody answers his question. And the one guy that actually did answer the question, but I don't even know what he was talking about. He said basically there's a switch that you have to readjust. Maybe that's on older Jeeps, because most of those forums, mine's the WJ, 90% of those are like for the TJ. Like for the TJ and the ZJ. That's like, if you got one of those vehicles, man, you got a million answers at your fingertips. But with the WJ, not so much. Okay, so the forums ended up just being a giant dead end. So the next thing is I was watching this video from a guy doing a Honda, and it was same thing. He was switching out the switch, and he was showing how to test it. Now, the way that guy tested it, he also used continuity, which is great. Now, what he was looking for is, like, a lot of these meters, when you put them on continuity and you touch the leads together, it makes a beeping noise. And just because you got beeps doesn't necessarily mean that everything's okay. Now, in his case, that was fine. And that particular switch, it would show resistance when there was no fluid, but as soon as you filled it up, it would go to OL, which basically means there's it's open line when you're talking about ohms. So just real quick on ohms, I have this thing hooked up right now with little alligator clips to the two pins in here, and I'm getting 1.000 K ohms. Now this meter is auto ranging, so I I like that a lot better because on some meters you actually have to pick your ohm range. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. And if you get the wrong ohm range, you're going to get readings that don't make any sense, or you're not going to get any readings at all. So I would definitely recommend getting a meter that does auto ranging, especially when it comes to like ohms and stuff like that. So on this one, and right now I have the old switch off the old master cylinder plugged into the reservoir of the new master cylinder, and I don't have any problems. It works, and I'm getting 1.00. Well, now it's 1, but I like the reason why I want to know this is because I want to see, like, when I plug it in, what should I be seeing. So, say this one went bad again and I had to go to went bad and I had to go to a junkyard, I would be able to pull these sensors out and test them and be like, okay, this one's good, this one's not, whatever. Because from what I understand, there's a pretty common failure across the board, like no matter what vehicle you're dealing with. So that's what this one reads. The old one, it reads OL, no matter what. Like I tried it with the reservoir full of fluid. I tried it with it empty. No matter what, it just reads OL. So it's a bad sensor. And now the part that kind of I wish I had more information on this, because like when you pull this thing out, it's not in the fluid. It's just in a little chamber. And it depends on what you're working on. Some of them can be kind of hard. This one was a little bit difficult. I had to use a pick on it. But it's not in the fluid itself. Because like a sensor that senses fluid, usually it would be OL when there's no fluid, and then the fluid would actually make the connection. And then you would see some sort of ohm value. But in this one, it doesn't. Now, just for reference, when I'm talking about ohms is resistance. So when you have 0 ohms, you have no resistance. When you have, let's say you had 10,000 ohms, that's a lot of resistance. And what you could kind of like, like a little mental picture of that would be like if you walked up to like a breaker panel on your house and it was wide open, all the wires exposed, it had power to it, and you have an iron rod in one hand and you have a stick in the other. When you put that iron rod and you touch anything metal in there, you're getting zapped because there's no resistance on that piece of iron. If you use the stick, you're not getting zapped because that stick has so much resistance that electricity is not going to go through that stick. No, unless you're dealing with majorly high voltage, then maybe. But just like a regular house, like you could poke it with a stick all day and be fine, but you put that iron rod in there, you've got no resistance to current flow, and you're going to get zapped. So when I'm talking about ohms, that's what I'm talking about. Anyways, the last thing that's kind of funny is that one of the videos that I was watching that actually showed how to pull these little switches out of the reservoir was from O'Reilly's. It was the O'Reilly's channel, and it's funny because O'Reilly is where I got this thing. So I can only imagine they made videos like that by popular demand to teach people how to fix the shit that they sell. So I should have returned this, but it was this isn't that hard to do. It doesn't make too big of a mess. What the problem, and I've worked on so many vehicles, I've never gone through as much misery as I have with this freaking vehicle. Because I had the old master cylinder, I didn't have these little plugs in here, and it was full of fluid, and I didn't have the cap on. So I set it like right above my headlight, and I'm just sitting there working on this thing, and about, I don't know, 3-4 minutes later, it just instantly dumped all the brake fluid on my headlight and all down the front of this thing, all over the garage floor. So I had to clean all that up, and now, I mean, if anybody doesn't know, brake fluid is like really nasty stuff. So now I've got some clean spots on my garage floor, but my headlight's all jacked up now, So it's like, I don't know what it is. Every time that I'm screwing around with this thing, misery. So, anyways, I hope the first part of the video helped anybody that's running across this, and for anybody that just wanted to listen to me vent, thank you very much, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.